All right, let's go then to SABC News senior reporter Chriselda Lewis in Pinetown. A very good afternoon to you, Chriselda. Just tell us more about what you've been seeing during the course of the day.
Well, Nzinga, I could say good afternoon, but it certainly is not a good afternoon for residents in various communities around eThekwini that have been severely impacted by the recent floods. They've lost their loved ones, and you would recall that government and those who were trying to assist in the rescue efforts here indicating that there are still quite a number of people that are unaccounted for or missing. There is no official figure at this stage in terms of the number of people who are missing. Throughout this morning into this afternoon, we've been showing you visuals of the absolute mayhem and destruction that has taken place here over the past couple of days. And what we've managed to do now, we know that while there are those who've indicated that some of their loved ones have passed on in this tragedy, there are those that have a whole lot of uncertainty that lingers over their heads. Their children are missing. Umamutembe as well as Ubaba, Umpanza, they are joining me this afternoon. Perhaps I can start with Mama Umpanza, who I can speak to now. She is absolutely, she doesn't know what to say at this point. Her child is still missing. And I want to show you something. The strength of a mother who, in the midst of trying to save her children, she got injured herself. I'm going to ask my colleague Tulo Munare to please just show you where Umamumpanza got hurt. Umamumpanza, Umamutembe. This is where she got hurt. You can see here, this is part of, she was trying to save the children as the water had been gushing down this road where they live. Mamutembe, siyabulela kakhulu mama ngokuthi ufumane ithuba lokukhuluma nathi namhlanje. Hayi kubhlungu. Abantwana ababini.
Yebo babili.
Awubazi ukuthi bakuphi.
Oyedwa sengikwazile ukumthola. Ngikwazile ukumthola emakhazeni lo omdala, lo omncane bengakatholakali. Kuyimanje usabhekwa.
Nizizwa kanjani ningumndeni ngesikhathi?
Sibhlungu kakhulu. Sibhlungu kakhulu sisi. Sesiqala ngilahla ithemba kade lahlekela katholakala sisazi sizomthola kephi.
Senikhangele yonke indawo.
Sekubhekwe yonke indawo la edlula khona. Kwaze kwafikwe phakathi emfuleni akatholakali. Akatholakali indawo nasehosheni kubhekiwe akatholakali.
Yini that's going through your heart okwamanje ma?
Kubhlungu kakhulu. Ngikwazi nje ukuchaza. Isimo nje ngibhekene naso sibhlungu ngalendlela. Angikwazi ngisho ukuyikhuluma.
Bakhona abantu bebezamile ukuzonisiza la ningumndeni.
Yebo baphumile nomakhelwane bazamile bahluleka. Namaphoyisa lawa ahamba nezinja afikile namanye amaphoyisa nje kwaguduzwa yonke indawo kodwa akutholakalanga. Kodwa namanje ke kusabhekwa sana lelo thenjana mhlambe khona bangabuya basitshele kona okungcono.
Ungafuna ukuthini wena mama ukuthi mhlambe kubekho abantu abangafika lana bazonisiza futhi kukhangele nje ingane yakho?
Ngingacela kakhulu bandla ukuthi bangapheli imoya njengoba kusekanjena nje kona ngingasho ngithi ithemba ngilahlele kodwa ngisanalo mangisabona kukhona abayisukumelile le ndaba. Ngiyacela baqhubeke bangapheli imandla. Sanalo ithemba lokuthi sisengalithola ithambo sifihlele.
Mawuzwa mama ukuthi amanzi bawathathe kuphi besiya kuphi
okusho ukuthi kubhidlike imizi engenhla yomuzi wami mayibhidlika yafika yashaya uthango la kwazi ukuthi lidlule luye koshaya igate belivaliwe liye koshaya igate lemizi iza namanzi amaningi bathuka ngenkathi kwenzeka lo msindo bathuka baphuma endlini ngoba bebona nobaba wengane le enye abahambe nayo shuthi bebecabanga mhlambe angakwazi ukuthi abasiza nje amanzi abesemaningi kakhulu bathe mama ephumela eminyango nje avela abathatha abagugula naye wazama ke kwangenzeka njoba nami ngizamile kwangenzeka.
It's a very difficult Nzinga to in particular speak to families that are just feeling so much loss. And I did say a bit earlier on, some of the community members that I spoke to, you can sense the grief when they say it's better off you know where your loved one is, whether they are alive or dead. But not knowing is what is even more difficult. And she says she's hoping that the rescue teams, they should not, when she says bangaphela umoya, she means they should continue to have strength and they should continue to go on and try to find those who are still missing and unaccounted for. There are so many community members that have been assisting us here to try and reach these families because trying to move through these areas, some of them that are very difficult to find. Some of the community members have been telling us that, there's so many of these cases that we're hearing about here today. And I'm going to speak to Ubaba now. Ubaba Mpanza ngithi his child is also missing, Nzinga. I cannot begin to imagine the devastation. I just want to get a bit of a clarification. Mama did say she found one of her children in KZN at the mortuary. Now, just take a listen to that. Yeah, I just didn't want to get it wrong, Nzinga. She found her one child at the mortuary and her second child is still missing. She's clinging on to hope that her child will be found. But she says that as the time goes on, there's obviously concern as the hours go by whether her child will be found alive. Baba Mpanza, ingane yakho uyigcine nini? Nisakhangela namanje ukuthi mhlawumbe angatholakala kuphi?
Kona sisalindile sithembile kona ukuthi mhlamba ngenzeka mhlamba agcine etholakalile ukuthi nami yenza lento mhlamba sikakula ko pass 1 mangaphosisa pass 1 uqala yenzeka lento so nami ngokuthi ke vele besiqalile indlu kubhidlika wavela umakhelwane wacela wathi mfethu nangu umakhelwane ngaleqhijwa indlu ngathi nami mfethu ubungibona nje ngiphume nangetrunk kubi la ngikwazi ukuthi nginyakaze kodwa ke nami ngizocela ukuthi ngiyibeke lapha ingane kuwena umakhelwane wena ungabuya kumakhelwane bomsiza mina ngizobe ngibhekile ngala kwanami isimo sami asikho right so wasuka kumakhelwane wahamba ngazi uma uhambe naye umama kodwa nje emva kwaloko sesamile nje la eminyango ngaphandle bese qhamuka ke lezindlu zonke lezi engaphezulu ezeyiphushe zaphusha ngala ngakumina zaphinde futhi zabhodloza ngala uthango zangena kamakhelwane zabhodloza nangale saseyiphuma ke ingane mayiphuma ke ingane eyodwa na12 years yohlanze na13 nje uma sikuba enokunye okuncane kuna 3 years kuzoba 4 years uma sikuba kwami nakade kuna 4 years saphuma ke iphuma lokudala ibambe ngezandla simemeze nankinga singaphesheya siyabuka kodwa ukuthi lento inkulu kakhulu kulula ukuthi ungakwazi ukungena kuyona kuphoqa ukuthi simemeze sithi ayimemeze ngane sithi azime lapho okungcono ukuthi kusikancane sizama ukungena ukuze sikwazi futhi sikwasithatha nakhona lapha ngazi yimapha amanzi aqhamuka ngoba phela zazisegcekeni angikwazi amanzi aqhamuka futhi nakho lapho nathi asibonanga emehlweni gcina isikhathi indlela esaluthe ngathi sahamba neni kanjani sayibona ngoba sihamba namanzi ngangiyibona nami ngibotha no ngeke ukuthi ingane ngahamba kanje ngibuka ngizama ukuthi ngiyafa futhi angife nazo lezi ngane angena-ke phakathi ngizama ukuthi ngizisizeke lezi ngane-ke amatshe angishaya ngapha nangapha kunankinga namatshe akunandaba namatshe angishaya amatshe ngapha nangapha la nginqoba-ke loda ngase ngawaphansi mase ngiyileke phansi sengizama ukuthi ngcono ngivuke ngithi ukubuka mhlawumbe ukuthi uma ngivuka ngavukela kulo thayela-ke lo ba ngisuke ngishaya kabuhlungu emehlweni ngabe ngisabona ukuthi agcina ngiyidedeleleke iy'ngane sihamba nami kamazi nami sengizama indlela yokulo yokuphuma-ke manje ukuthi ngiyile ngiphumele ngaphandle ngenhlanhla ngagcina nami ngiwinile ngaphumayo ngaphandle uma ngiphuma ngaphandle ngikhamuka umama wey'ngane lo wami qhamuka yena kuqala ethi iy'ngane ngithi mina futhi nangasakwazi uyabona ngisakwazi nanokukhuluma nami uphuma udaka ngamehlo uphuma udaka ngamakhala nangomlomo kucaca ukuthi manje naphindaphindele phakathi engaphindeli phakathi sakhuluma naqhamuka umakhelwane nawo uhamba uyakhala uhamba nawo manje iy'ngane zami nami angisenawo amandla ukuthi mhlawumbe ngikwazi ngimbambe ngenhlanhla-ke lelo wami angene ngaleso sikhathi naye emanzini asizakale-ke umakhelwane ebuyele eceleni adluleke nobana zophuma le nzansi ngasesikoleni caca ukuthi ingane ayitholakale sibuye ingane ayitholakale qaleke manje indaba yokufona kuyafona manje zama ukuthi sithole usizo ngakhonani uma babethanda ukusisiza ngaleso sikhathi abe ngeke baze bakwazi ukusisiza ngendlela isimo sasiso kodwa-ke bona bazamile ukusisiza ngoba bafikile amaphoyisa a-check-a azama uku-check-a bona manje sazama ukubheka nathi siyazama ukubheka siya nasemakhazini siye nase-police station abasisi basisiza nawo ikhansela amalungu ekhansela azame ukuthi bakhona kuzwayo asisize but ngeke sililahle ithemba manje kunzima imphefumulo siyayidinga silindele ukuthi sikwazi sibe ngendlela yakhona efanelekile but engingakusho nje kone kubuhlungu ngicabanga ukuthi mhlawumbe kuyonto engakwazi ukuphela enhliziyweni ngendlela yokubuhlungu kanti esibone yenzeka wona kubuhlungu kanti akukho okunye mhlawumbe ungakwazi ukuthi mhlawumbe ukuthi ngakubeka engicabanga ukuthi kuleyo ngikubekile ngicabanga ukuthi kwanele
Askis baba. Nzenga. Babu Mpanza extremely emotional at the moment. Together no mama as they await news on whether their kids are going to be found. He says he is not going to give up hope. Baba Mpanza uke walimala nalana ngiyabona uzama ukusiza ingane lapha elihlweni lakho.
Lapha into abankinga iyona into yanginqoba iyona le ngoba manje ayisengishayela ngenankinga angayidedeli kodwa ingane. Ngoba phela ngangiyibambile ezincane eziwu2 le ntombazana yabona sengiyibambile leso sikhathi ngoba phela ngasikhathi afike ngabamemeza amagama ngase ngababamba baphenduka futhi bangibona ngababamba lo ntombazana wabo sengibabambile wasibambela kumina eblokweni so itshela ngishaya mina futhi lashaya futhi asibhanqa nayo ingane le ntombazana ngoba ngawo isikhathi singiwa yona ngabe ngisayibona siphelelapha wona isikhathi futhi ngize ngehla ngize ngishaya uthale ngithi ngiyavuka ngitshe mhlawumbe wonke into esiphazamisa kwakunetruck la lesitakhile emgaqweni mhlawumbe kubulale ngekho lo truck mhlawumbe ngane sayizokwazi ukusinda ngoba yonke into lalibuyisela ngala okunye kubhaje kulona lelo truck kodwa ngangilwela ukuthi mhlawumbe ongcono-ke siye ngaphansi kwale truck mina ngizofika ngikwazi ukubhalansa mhlawumbe lokuncane ngikwazi ukuthi ngikuphushe eceleni so agcina ngenzekanga kwawuke lo thayela lo ngishayileke agcina ungivala amehlo agcina ngasabona lutho ngoba nami ngaphuma vele nami senginqina impahla zayikhumukela khona ngikhunyula manje.
Baba Mpanza. Excuse me. Mama. Nzinga, this is becoming extremely difficult. I think we are going to let the families go at this stage. They're clearly in a lot of grief. It's an incredibly difficult story to cover because we're obviously having to tell the story to the country
And having to do that, we obviously have to speak to the families who are obviously extremely devastated. I must say it's one of the parts of my job that I really do not like, because in this particular instance, we are not able to tell the story without speaking to those families that are affected by this tragedy. These are families who don't know where their children are. And every time a government gives an update about the number of fatalities, they also talk about those who are unaccounted for. These are the families of those children that are unaccounted for. Zing, I'm going to let you go just a moment, just to also allow the families to get through this moment. Not far from here, there is a community hall where some of the residents who've been affected are taking refuge. I'm hoping we'd be able to speak to you from that area. I understand there are about 30 people that have taken shelter at that community center, which is not far from here, but extremely difficult. From around where we are, you can clearly see the devastation as well. And that devastation paints a picture of what could have possibly happened, as Mbanza is explaining to us how he tried to save the children, how he got injured as well. Both parents got injured. Mbanza on his right eye, if we're able to see that at the moment, that sore is slightly starting to heal, but my colleague will show you. These were parents who were desperate to save their children in that mayhem. And that is where Babu Mbanza was hit by a tile. Can you imagine, with the debris and everything that has been gushing down? That is where he was also injured trying to save the children. The community here, you know, those who've accompanied us to try and speak to the family members, they themselves not doing well in all of this. You know, some of them in the tears here this afternoon over what has happened. And in addition to Babu Mbanza being injured trying to save the children, Umama as well, also getting injured herself here. She is limping through as she is trying to come and speak to us. She hasn't gotten any assistance, I would see, from taking a look at the injury that she has sustained. She is limping through, but that is the least of her worries at this stage. If we look at that, it's the least of her concerns at the moment. She simply wants to get her child back, and these are the many stories. There are faces to the suffering that has taken place here. And these are the parents who are continuing to hold on to that hope every single moment, hoping that their children will be found alive.
All right, Chriselda Lewis giving us a very difficult update and interview there with families affected by the floods in KwaZulu-Natal. Chriselda, thanks so much for that update and for bringing us those stories.